Hi everyone. So today I'm going to talk about Daniel Freeman and the Homestead, Nebraska Act of 1862. So Daniel Freeman's lives can give us a really good idea of what pioneers' lives were like in the postbellum period, specifically in the economic sense. So as you can see, here is a picture of Daniel Freeman. So who was Daniel Freeman? Daniel Freeman was the first person in the United States to settle in Beatrice, Nebraska under the Homestead Act of 1862. Although Freeman settled in Nebraska during the Civil War, his life as a homesteader can be used to examine the lived experiences of settlers in the postbellum period in the Midwest. The Homestead, Nebraska Act. The Homestead, Nebraska Act was signed into law on May 20th, 1862. It encouraged Western migration and guaranteed applicants 160 acres of public land. Now, this public land, as we are all probably aware, was taken from Native Americans. Starting in the early 1850s, our government began the process of reducing American Indian holdings on the eastern plains by extinguishing land titles and writing new treaties. Usually, they weren't that great about following through with these land treaties and would just take more land. Sometimes, however, Native Americans surrendered land to the government to settle trading debts and to receive more dependable annuity payments. Homesteaders paid a small filing fee and were required to complete 5 years of continuous residence to gain ownership of the land. After 6 months of residency, owners had the option to purchase the land from the government for $1.25 an acre. Overall, the Homestead Act led to the distribution of 80 million acres of land by the turn of the 20th century. So this is a picture of the actual application that Daniel Freeman signed, and it was approved on May 20th, 1862. So about Freeman. So Daniel Freeman was a physician and widower who fought in the Union Army. After he was assigned patrol duty in Beatrice, Nebraska, Daniel built a cabin there, which is the parcel of land he applied to own when he completed the application for the Homestead Act in 1862. In 1865, Daniel remarried a local school teacher named Agnes Suter. The couple later had 8 children. On the cabin, she recalled, a big fireplace brought forth warmth, and though one was only half length, there was a window on each side of the cabin. There was a chair and 2 oak benches. The bed was built in the wall, and the mattress was filled with hay. A small oil lamp with none too polished chimney flickered dimly on the table. I was tired from my journey, and as I got warm and rested, it seemed more and more like home. And though often afterwards I longed to go back east, this has been home to me ever since. So this is a picture of Agnes Suter, Daniel Freeman's wife and schoolteacher in Beatrice, Nebraska. So this is a picture of their log cabin in Nebraska. Now, the Freemans were pretty lucky because they were able to build a cabin with logs, which were actually quite expensive because there was no logging in the Midwest at the time. And most settlers built their houses out of sod. So this is the gravestones of Daniel and Agnes Freeman. As you can see on the gravestone, it says that he was a soldier, doctor, sheriff, and farmer, and a true pioneer. Agnes Freeman was a true pioneer mother. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the lived economic experiences of settlers. Most homesteaders, like Daniel Freeman, would have had to borrow money to start their homesteads. Usually, it required anywhere from $500 to $800 to start their homesteads to complete with a house and a functional farm. The American economy, especially in the plains, was built upon credit. Most homesteaders lived in sod houses, which were very uncomfortable. You can imagine that during the wet season, it would leak. There were lots of insects and other pests that would come into the sod houses. So you can imagine that it would not be very comfortable, especially staying with a large family inside one of those small houses, which were usually just a few rooms. The Freemans were lucky enough to have acquired the resources to build a log cabin on the plains. Freeman, like other homesteaders, would have had to sod bust, which means plow, his fields. Given the difficult weather conditions, droughts and excessive rain, insects, etc., it was very difficult to get a sustainable crop and very difficult to ship agricultural products to other places because transportation by rail was so expensive. Therefore, many homesteaders sold their products locally or practiced subsistence farming. Many homesteaders failed in their endeavors and had to close their farms, but Freeman, like a true pioneer, was successful and built a successful business.